Hey there, welcome to this Tuts Plus short course, How to Design a Book Cover. My name is Grace Fussell and I'm a graphic designer based in the UK. Book covers come in a wide range of shapes, sizes and styles, each designed to attract the eye of a particular reader. Giving your cover an eye-catching and creative design that's perfectly suited to your target audience will ensure that your cover speaks to the right readership. In this course, you'll learn how to design book cover artwork that's not only engaging, attractive, and genre appropriate, but it's also going to be technically flawless too. We'll focus on creating a cover design for a print paperback, complete with front cover, spine, and reverse. You'll learn how to find creative inspiration for your designs, how to size and lay out your cover, and also how to expand the artwork into a full wraparound cover design. You'll also pick up some essential tips for how to prepare your cover correctly for printing, whether you're sending off your artwork to a specialist printer or uploading the design to an online print-on-demand service like Amazon CreateSpace, Lulu or Blurb. I'm really looking forward to welcoming you on board this course. I hope you're excited to dive in with creating some really awesome cover designs. Hi there, welcome back. In this quick video, we're going to look at the sort of software and graphics, such as fonts and images, that you'll need to follow along with the lessons and create your book cover. As with anything when it comes to design, there's no real right or wrong software to use, but when it comes to book design, I would argue that you can't really beat Adobe InDesign, and I'm sure a lot of professional cover designers would agree with me on that one too. So InDesign is a publishing program, which means it's really suited to creating layouts for print, which combine typography and images, which is exactly what we're going to be doing for our cover. It's also really suited to setting up accurate print specs for your cover artwork, so things like creating a bleed, working with CMYK colour, and also exporting to press-ready PDF formats. If you don't already have InDesign on your computer, you can download the app from the Adobe website. And if you simply want to use the software to finish this course, they also offer you a 7-day free trial from there too. So that's well worth checking out if you're not sure whether you want to commit to purchasing InDesign. We'll also be dipping into Adobe Illustrator to edit vector graphics for our cover. And again, if you don't already have this, you can download this from the Adobe website as well. Alternatively, you can use other vector software like Inkscape if you prefer. The interface will just appear a little bit different to what I'm going to be using here. Finally, you're also going to need to have some images and fonts to hand to put together the cover design pictured here. You'll find a list of links attached to this lesson, which shows you the images and fonts that you'll need to download from Envato Elements. When you download the images, make sure you save these to a folder that you can easily come back to, and you'll also need to make sure that the fonts are installed onto your computer before you begin. In this section of the course, we're going to lay down the groundwork for creating our book cover. Designing your own book covers can be a really fun process, but it's also easy to get carried away. Effective book covers are not only highly creative and attractive to look at, but they're also finely tuned to the readership that they're aiming for. In this lesson, I'm going to share with you my tips for finding creative direction for your cover. The first thing to consider is the influence of genre on the design of your cover. Whether your book falls into the category of thriller, historical romance, horror, family drama, you need to have an awareness of the sort of common design traits which appear across covers within a certain genre. So even though you're aiming for a cover that stands out amongst others and has a unique quality that is going to entice a reader, you also need to be aware that you'll have to abide by certain rules to make sure that your cover is genre appropriate. Let's look at an example. So the cover we're going to work towards creating in this course is for one instalment in a sci-fi fantasy series. Sci-fi readers tend to be very devoted to their genre, and voracious readers will look for specific design cues on covers that they're interested in to help them assess if the book is going to suit them. On the Kindle store, we can already see some common elements across the sci-fi and fantasy genre. So they tend to have dark, moody backgrounds, chunky typography set in all caps, simple, striking illustrations or photos. Some of the titles use metallic effects or they have gradient effects to make the type really stand out. And whether these cover designs are to your taste or not, it's important to recognise that these covers are appearing at the top of the search for a reason. They're obviously hitting the spot for the audience in question. So make sure to have a research of covers in your genre and make a note of the design elements that they have in common. It will help your cover design to be as effective as possible. Once you've got a bit of a sense of what sells well on something like the Kindle store, you can start to seek out some broader inspiration for your cover. I'm going to show you a few of my favourite places for gathering cover inspiration. So as well as online bookstores like the Kindle store and Apple iBooks, which are particularly great for getting inspiration for ebook design, for print books you can't go wrong with dipping into some other online resources as well. One of my absolute favourite resources is the Book Cover Archive, which is bookcoverarchive.com. You really can lose hours just looking at the covers on here, and it's really great for giving you completely new ideas for structuring your design, how to make typography more imaginative and striking, as well as give you ideas for really different and eye-catching colour combinations. So make sure to check it out, it's just really cool and it could spark a really good idea. I also personally love Pinterest for cover inspiration, because the popularity of images on here is based on how often that image has been pinned or shared. It gives you a really good sense of the design styles of covers that have really broad appeal. The emphasis on Pinterest tends to be on covers that have highly visual, unusual designs, and they often feature covers that are vintage or have been reimagined by fans. Again, it can give you some really unusual, interesting ideas about how to make your cover designs more graphic and striking. And it also becomes instantly clear which cover designs catch the eye more than others when you're viewing lots of images at once. Something to keep in mind when you're creating cover designs that are going to be competing for someone's attention on the store's website. So hopefully browsing sites like these will give you some ideas for creating your own cover design. So when you've got your inspiration figured out, you can start to think about the technical specs of your cover. In the next lesson, we'll look at just that and share some tips about how to size your cover. Hey there, welcome back. So one of the most intimidating aspects of creating a book cover is knowing how to size it. Particularly for print covers, the range of sizes you encounter in bookstores can seem really broad, and it can be difficult to know which size is going to be best for you. While books do come in a wide range of sizes and formats, there are actually some widely accepted standards which are observed within the publishing industry. When it comes to print covers, books fall into two main format categories. So that's paperback, which is sometimes referred to as soft cover, or hardback or hardcover. So hardbacks are the most traditional book format. These have a solid cover made of board, which is bound with paper or fabric, or covered with a separate dust jacket, which slots over the top of the cover loosely. The internal pages are sewn into the spine, which makes the book very flexible to open. And while hardbacks are a really lovely book format, and they're also experiencing a resurgence in popularity at the moment, they're more expensive to print, and most online printing sites will direct you to create a paperback version of your book instead. So in this course, that's what we're going to focus on. A cover for a paperback is what we're going to work towards creating. So paperbacks. These have a paper or paperboard cover, and the book is often held together with glue rather than stitches or staples. When it comes to sizing your cover, the main thing to research is the cover sizes recommended by the manufacturer that you are creating the book through. So if you're creating a cover for a publishing house, they might ask for an industry standard size such as a B format, which is a medium paperback size. If you're in the UK, this refers to a book that's 198 by 129 millimeters in size. But if you're over in the States, this is a bit larger at 203 by 127 millimeters. So you also need to be aware of what different size names actually mean in different countries. For self-publishing, which is what we're going to be aiming for with our cover in this course, choosing a size is a bit of an easier process, which is good. Most sites such as Amazon, Lulu and Blurb will have a set list of recommended sizes which you can choose from. Here on Amazon's direct publishing site, you can look at the recommended trim sizes, which just refers to the final size that the cover is trimmed to after printing. And you can either just note your chosen measurements down, or you can choose to download a template. Now, because I want you to be able to learn as much as possible about creating a cover from scratch, we're not going to download a template, but instead we're going to choose a size together and work towards creating a cover which meets those specs. For a sci-fi paperback, you could go for a small airport fiction sort of size, like 5 by 8 inches. But I want to sell this book as more of a general fiction paperback online on the Kindle store. So I think a sort of in-between medium paperback size, like 6 by 9 inches, is going to suit that a bit better. So that's what we're going to work towards. So make a note of your size. Here we're going for 6 by 9 inches. And we can use this as a basis for creating an amazing cover. So let's dive in and start designing. Hey there. Okay, so now we can get started with the really fun stuff. Let's get InDesign opened up and get started creating the front of our cover. In the new document window, let's make sure the intent at the top is set to print, and all we want initially is one page, and also uncheck facing pages. Switch the units to inches and set the page to the width that we noted down earlier, which is 6 inches. And you can set the height to 9 inches. Okay, so let's set the margins to 0.375 inches. Scrolling down, we want to make sure to add a bleed to our cover, which is really important. Bleeds can vary depending on which print-on-demand service you're using, but for Kindle Direct Publishing, which we're using as an example for our cover here, they ask for a 0.125 inch bleed. So let's type that in, 0.125. Okay, cool. Now click Create. Here we are, awesome. So this is the template for our front cover, which is always the best thing to start designing first, even if you're creating a full wraparound print cover like we are here. Okay, we're ready to get started mapping out the basics of our front cover. First things first, it's always good to know the center point of our cover so we can align type and images accurately. So make sure the rulers are visible by heading up to View and Show Rulers. And pull out a guide from the left-hand ruler to the center point, which is at 3 inches. Now we can section out the cover to help us map out where the text and images are going to go. So pull a guide down from the top ruler to 1.85 inches, 1.85, which will be the baseline of our header, and a second down to 2.9 inches, which is the baseline for the subheading. Pull a final one down to 7.8 inches, which marks the top of the author name. Okay, cool. And that's it for now. Head straight over to the next lesson where we'll start to build up typography and graphics on our design. Okay, we're still here working on our front cover. It's looking a bit blank at the moment, so let's get working on changing that. So first thing to look at is the typography for your cover. Personally, I'm more of a type-centric person, so I always like to get the vibe of this right before I consider the graphics too much. You might be the other way around, and that's fine too, but because I'm leading this course, we're going to selfishly do it my way. Okay, so let's get the text content up on the cover first. So switch to the Type tool by choosing it from the Tools panel over here, or hit T on your keyboard. So drag across the page to create a large text frame across the top, pulling the bottom edge down to that first guide and making sure that the frame is reasonably central. Type in your title, so here it's going to be Lunar, Lunar. Okay, cool. From the top controls panel, big up that font size to a really generous 130 points and set the text to align center. Okay, next text frame, drag one out to create a subheading. I'm going to type in the first in the, then a line break, and Star Sky Trilogy, and set that to 18 points, 18, and align center for now. Another smaller text frame here down at the bottom, resting the top edge on this guide. I'm going to type in from the author of Sirius, and set that to 18 points, and align center again. Okay, final text frame at the bottom of the page, author name here, which is Kate H. James, and set that to align center and a slightly larger font size at 36 points. So now the text is mapped out, we can start to have some fun with the typefaces. Of course, when you're designing your own covers, you're going to want to experiment with lots of fonts, and you might find that you use something for a while and change your mind later, and that's all good, it's just part of the design process. So this is the sped up Blue Peter version where I'm going to show you my final result after playing around with things. All the fonts I'm using for the cover you can find over on Envato Elements, and you'll find reattached to this lesson the resource list which details the links to these, so make sure to check that out. Okay, so the fonts I'm using for the cover are Baddest for the header font. Let's get that applied from the font list. I want the rough weight, not the regular. Ooh, that's nice. Okay, let's increase the tracking, the letter spacing just a little to 10 to spread it out a bit more. Okay, for the next line down, just the first in there, I've opted for native and increase the tracking of this to 60. For Star Sky Trilogy, I want to use Arbor Vintage Extended, and I'm going to increase the font size a bit, making this line 30 points in size. I'm also going to set the leading to 30 points as well, to separate that a bit more from the intro line. Okay, awesome. For From the Author Of, I'm going to set that in Arbor Vintage Extended and pull out just the book name, Sirius, in that kind of brand font that we've established, which is baddest in rough, and increase the tracking across that whole piece of text to 70. Let's just tweak the size of Sirius down to 16 points. Let's set the author name in Arbor Vintage Extended and increase the tracking to 80. Awesome, that's looking really nice. To keep everything organised on our cover design, we should separate elements into their own layers. So head over to expand the layers panel or go up to window and layers if you can't see it and double click on layer 1. Let's rename it type and let's lock that layer as we're done with that for now. Right, over to my second favourite part of the design, which is the graphics. Let's choose new layer from the layers panel menu and rename this image and click OK. And then drag this down to sit beneath the type layer. In your Finder window, navigate to the folder of Lunar Moons from Space from Elements. Cool. Okay, so we want to use the EPS formats. Open up the Moon 02 Crescent EPS file in Illustrator. Just select it and edit, copy it, and minimize the window. Done. Okay, so head back to your InDesign document and edit paste it onto the image layer. And then hold shift and scale it down, position it centrally. Okay, cool. Okay, and repeat. For a bit of visual difference, open up the Moon 03 Crescent EPS file in Illustrator. Copy it. Head back over and paste that in. Scale it down so it looks like it's peeking out from behind the large moon. Okay. Right, last moon to go. Open up the Moon 03 EPS file in Illustrator. And copy it. Head back over to InDesign, paste it in. And then right click, transform, flip horizontal. And then move it into a mirrored position. Okay, cool. And there we have it, our front cover is starting to come together. In the next lesson, we'll work on refining those extra special details like colour and texture, which is really fun. So I'll see you over there. Hey there, nice to have you back. So the eagle-eyed amongst you might have noticed that I've tweaked my moons a bit more. I've replaced the central moon with the same moon as on the left side. And that's fine, it's all part of the process of tweaking your cover and making it the very best that it can be. So in this lesson, we're going to further refine the design of our front cover, and now we have the type and graphics mapped out, we're ready to start thinking about colour and texture to really make the design pop. I'm going to show you how you can create gradient swatches which graduate a range of colour across type, images and backgrounds. And this is really going to add real depth and interest to your cover. So before you can create a gradient swatch, you need to create a base palette of normal swatches which you can use in your gradients. So expand the swatches panel or go to Window, Colour and Swatches and choose New Colour Swatch from the main menu. Because we're creating a cover for print, let's make sure the colour type is set to Process and the mode to CMYK, not RGB. Let's set the levels to cyan 78, magenta 96, yellow 46, and key or black to 72. And that's going to create a dark, moody colour. And click add and then done. Great, so let's repeat for the next swatch. This time cyan 81, magenta 92, yellow 0 and key to 40. Add and done. And just 2 more to go. The next one is going to be cyan 20, magenta 13, 13, yellow 26 and key 1. Add and done. And finally, we're going to have one which is cyan 33, magenta 48, yellow 0 and key 0. And add and done. Great, so we've got the building blocks of our gradients sorted. First up, let's create a gradient swatch for the background of our cover. So go to the Swatches Panels menu, choose New Gradient Swatch. Let's name the swatch Background Gradient and set the type to Radial to create a circular gradient. Click on the left-hand stop on the gradient ramp at the bottom of the window and scroll through your swatches list until you get to that dark cyan 78 swatch. And click on that to apply it to that stop. Now for the right-hand stop, so let's set that to the purple cyan 81 swatch. And then to darken the gradient, pull the left-hand stop to about 2/3 along the ramp. Okay, so click add and then done. Now let's create a gradient to use across the type, which is going to have to be paler to stand out against a dark background. New gradient swatch as before, and name this one Text Gradient. Set the type to Linear. From the swatches menu, choose cyan 20 for the first left-hand stop. Choose cyan 81 for the right-hand stop. Then click about 2/3 the way along the ramp to add another stop and set this to cyan 33. Great, click add and done. The final gradient swatch we're going to create is for the moon graphics. So choose New Gradient Swatch, name it Moon Gradient. Set the left-hand stop to cyan 20. And the right hand to cyan 33. Move the top point along the slider about 2/3 the way along to make the gradient paler. And add and done. And we're done. Great job. Okay, so let's start applying those lovely gradient swatches. So first up, we need to create a new layer for the background colour. So in the Layers panel, choose New Layer. Name this Background. And click OK. And drag this down to sit at the bottom of the pile. Choose the rectangle tool from the Tools panel and drag this over the page. Take it up to the edge of the bleed on the top right and bottom sides, but only take it up to the page or trim edge on the left side, as we're going to expand the cover later into a full cover, so that will make sense later on. From the Swatches panel, set the fill colour of this shape to Background Gradient. Awesome. Right, on the image layer, select all 3 moons and set their fill to Moon Gradient. Cool. Now to really exaggerate the gradient effect, we can also apply a gradient feather to the moons. So let's work along from left to right. So select the first moon on the left side and head up to Object and choose Effects and Gradient Feather. Pull the dark stop along about 1/3 and bring the pale stop back by about 1/3 as well. And adjust the angle of the gradient to around -160 degrees. And click OK. For the large central moon, again go to Object, Effects, Gradient Feather. Pull the stops inwards by about 1/3 and set the angle to about -130 degrees. OK. For the final moon on the right, go to Object, Effects, Gradient Feather as before. Pull the stops inwards as we did before and set the angle to about -160. And OK. Right, we're doing really well. Now it's time for the type colour. So unlock the type layer and select all of the text frames sitting on the page. Then click on the T symbol in the swatches panel to edit the font colour and set this to text gradient. Awesome, the cover's looking really great. We just need one final touch, which is to add an overlay texture to the design. This is such a neat trick for making your cover designs just look really professional. So let's create a new layer, name it Texture Overlay, and make sure this is at the top of the pile, and then lock all of those other layers. So working on the Texture Overlay layer, switch to the Rectangle Frame tool and drag this across the page, matching the background dimensions below. Go to File, Place, and navigate to the 10 Grunge Paint Overlays folder that you downloaded from Elements earlier. Open that up and let's go for texture number 8. Click Open and double click to select the image directly. Right click and transform and choose rotate 90 degrees clockwise. Then scale the image down to get that frame nicely filled up. Awesome. Okay, with the image frame selected, head up to Object, Effects and Transparency. From the Mode menu, choose Hard Light and then pull that opacity down to 35% and click OK. Cool, and that's your front cover finished. It's looking really good, but our work isn't finished quite yet. In the next lesson, we're going to look at how to expand this design into a full wraparound cover for a paperback that's going to have a spine and a back cover. So stick around for that, we'll be right back. Hi, welcome back. So our front cover is looking really good. What next? Well, to make our cover ready for printing, we're going to need to expand the design into a full wraparound cover, complete with a reverse side and a spine. So let's do it. In our InDesign document, let's make a copy of the front cover so we can preserve a copy of the front on its own. That's always going to be quite handy to have. So go to the Pages panel and drag page 1 down onto the Create New Page icon at the bottom of the panel. So now we're going to work on page 2 as our expanded cover. So before we expand the cover, we need to work out the width of the spine. And this is going to be dependent on the number of pages in your book, as well as the paper stock that they're printed onto. You can use an online spine width calculator to work this out. There's lots of them if you just Google it. Or most print-on-demand sites will also have a tool for working this out. I'm using Kindle Direct Publishing for this cover, and they've worked out for me that with a page count of 150 pages, this is going to give me a spine width of 0.34 inches. So here comes the math. The total width of our expanded cover will be twice the width of the front cover. So that's 6 inches times 2, which is 12 inches, plus the spine width, which makes it a total of 12.34 inches. Okay, so to expand the cover to that width, select the Page tool or hold down Shift plus P on your keyboard. Then click onto Page 2 to select it with the Page tool. And at the top of the workspace where you can see the width text box, type in 12.34 IN for inches and hit Enter. Okay, in the Layers panel, unlock all the layers and then select all the front cover elements on the page and shift them over to the right until they hit the edge of the bleed. Okay, cool. Now select and delete any guides hanging around on the page, as we'll redo these from scratch. Pull out a guide from the left-hand ruler and drop it at 6 inches. Drop a second at 6.34 inches. Pull out another 3 inches to mark out the centre of the back cover, and then another one to 5.625 inches to mark out the right margin line of the back cover. Okay, so now we're ready to start filling up the design of the reverse cover and spine. For this, I've got a really neat trick for you. So lock all the layers except the texture overlay and background layers. Then drag your mouse over the elements sitting on these layers and edit copy, edit paste. Then right click on the copy and choose transform, flip horizontal, and shift this over to the left side of the cover. Edit paste again and pull in the sides of this copy until it fits neatly within the spine space. So it's a really quick way of just filling up your cover. Now lock all the layers except the image layer. I think back covers shouldn't be boring, but that doesn't mean you need to spend ages and ages designing them. It's much easier to reuse elements that you've already created for your front cover. For example, let's select the moon shape up on the left side of the front cover and edit copy, edit paste it. Scale it up while holding Shift and position centrally on the back cover using the guide to centre it. Now we can start filling up the rest of the cover with type. I'm working from a blurb that was provided for me in a Pages document, but you might just want to type something in here as you go. I'm going to lock the image layer and unlock the type layer. Use the type tool to create a large text frame across the top of the back cover. I'm going to set the font to native, size 15 points, 15. I'm going to set the tracking to 60 and the text to align center. And hop over to my blurb document and copy that text. Back over to InDesign and paste that into the frame. Okay, so this moon gives us an interesting way to present the rest of the blurb text. It's just asking for an oval text frame. So take the ellipse tool or hit L on your keyboard and create a nice oval to fill that gap really neatly. Right click and choose content and set that to text and set your type tool cursor in it. Okay, so I'm going to set the font to more traditional bookish Baskerville, size 13 points, and increase the tracking to 60. And set the text to align center. And back to the blurb document, I'm going to copy that last piece of text and back over again and paste that in. Awesome. I'm going to switch to the paragraph options at the top and also uncheck hyphenate. Right, so now it's time to do the spine. So first thing is to pull out a guide to the center point of the spine and the cover as a whole, which here is going to be 12.34 divided by 2, which is 6.17 inches. For the spine, you want to repeat the title of the book, the author name, and if you like, pop a little publisher name or logo at the bottom of the spine as well. That's always a nice little touch. So the quickest way to do it is to just adapt what we've already got on the front cover. So select the lunar text frame and copy and paste it. And right click, transform, rotate 90 degrees clockwise, and then bring that font size down to 16 points. Get that entered, okay. Let's copy that to the first in text frame and do the same. So copy, paste, rotate it, get rid of the sentence break and reduce the font size to 13 points. And same with the author name, copy and paste that, rotate, reduce to 15 points and get that centered. Okay, nice. And hey, while we're here, why not unlock the image layer and select the moon on the far right and copy and paste it. And then scale that down and you can use that as a cute little logo on the bottom of the spine. Lovely. Awesome, and that's it. Your cover artwork is finished. Great work. All you need to do now is get it prepped for printing and exported to a format that's ready for uploading to either your print on demand site or to hand over to your printer. So we'll look at that in the next lesson. So I'll see you over there in just a moment. Hi, nice to have you back. So with our cover artwork finished, it's time to get it ready for printing. Some printers will allow you to hand over InDesign files as they are, but generally best practice is to export your cover as a press-ready PDF file. So first thing to do, and often neglected, is to do a spell check. So go to Edit, Spelling, and Check Spelling. You can just skip your way through unless anything gets flagged up, and then hit Done to exit. Okay, so pre-flight time. Pre-flight is one of InDesign's really handy little features, and honestly, it will save you so much heartache later on. You can access the pre-flight window by choosing Pre-flight Panel to the right of this little coloured circle down at the bottom of the workspace. If your circle is green, you're good to go. There are no errors flagged up. But if it's red, you've got something to sort out. So whether it's a missing font, text overflowing a text frame, or a missing image link, you can identify it and get it sorted from here. So hopefully you've got no errors, but if you do, you can navigate straight to them from here. For example, say this text frame is too short and there's text overflowing, that little circle is going to go instantly red and it's telling you that it's overset text. And by clicking on the page number, it takes you straight to the source of the problem. And we can sort that out by extending that frame down. Okay, so with pre-flight done, you can go ahead and export your cover. So go to File and Export. So name your file something like Final Lunar Cover for Print and choose Adobe PDF Print from the Format menu and click Save. Okay, so in this next window, there's actually very little that you actually have to do. The important thing is the preset at the top. For the Adobe PDF preset, choose Press Quality, and this is going to give you a really high quality file for printing. Under Pages, remember that we left a copy of the front cover on page 1, so check Range and set this to 2 just to export that expanded cover which is on page 2. One more thing to do is to make sure to include the bleed in your artwork. For that, click on Marks and Bleeds in the left-hand menu of the window. Some professional printers, print shops, etc. might prefer it if you include some or all printers' marks, so you need to check with them in advance if that's what they'd like you to do. But with a lot of print-on-demand sites, all they want is the bleed and no marks. So for this, just check Use Document Bleed Settings. And that's good to go. So go ahead and hit Export. And InDesign will generate your PDF. It might take a minute to do. And awesome, there we go. So how cool is that? This file is ready for uploading or sending straight off to print. And you can give yourself a big clap on the back. Your work here is completely done. So in the next and final video, I'm going to finally let you have a breather and we'll take a quick overview of all the cool skills that you've picked up over the course. So amazing work, and I'll see you over there. Hello, I'm so pleased you've made it through to the end of this course, and I hope you feel really proud of all the work that you've done. Let's take a quick refresh of the skills that you've picked up, and also I'd like to share some tips with you for how you can develop your cover design into a possible series. We've actually covered tons of really useful print design and layout design skills in this course, and I'm sure you're going to be blown away by how much you should now feel more confident with doing. So you can now source inspiration and style ideas for creating unique and attractive book covers, as well as having developed an awareness about how genre can shape a design and influence a reader as to whether a book is going to be the right fit for them. You can now draft a front cover layout in Adobe InDesign, you can use guides to create a grid, and you can incorporate vector graphics onto your design. You also know how to format typography to a really high standard and create a sense of hierarchy across your cover as well. You also know how to create a sophisticated colour palette for your cover, as well as how to create gradient swatches and bring in texture overlays to add depth and visual interest to your design. You also know how to use the page tool to expand your cover into a full wraparound design, complete with a reverse side and a spine. And you've practiced how to populate the reverse and spine with elements lifted and adapted from the front cover. Finally, you know how to get your cover prepped for printing by performing a pre-flight and exporting it correctly to a press-ready PDF format. Phew! That is a lot of stuff. Good job. I want to show you quickly, as a final tip for you to take away, how to adapt elements of your cover design to create a series look, which is often something that authors want to do for their books. I'll show you this example, which is a design for the second book in the Star Sky series we created the lunar cover for. So the 2 points of difference here are just the graphics and the colour palette. So I've swapped in a circular astrology vector with a radial gradient applied to it on the front, and that gradient is reversed on the back to allow the text to be laid over the top. You can see here I've also swapped in a teeny tiny image of a constellation onto the spine to create a point of difference, even when, say, the book is stacked on the shelf. So if you want to create a design that feels different but also part of the same series, try swapping in the images and colours while preserving the fonts to keep it consistent. It's simple, but it's really effective. And on that note, I will wrap things up and just say a really big thank you for taking this Envato Tuts Plus course. I've been your instructor, Grace Fussell, and I hope you've picked up a lot of handy new skills and perhaps a new passion for creating more amazing book covers. I love creating them, and I hope you'll also get bitten by the book design bug.